Welcome to the SDA Housing Podcast, brought to you by NDIS Property Australia. Before starting this episode, we need to provide a general disclaimer. Information contained in this podcast is general in nature only. It does not take into account the objectives, financial situation, or needs of any particular person. You need to consider your financial situation and needs before making any decisions based on the information in this podcast. And you should consider seeking independent and professional advice for your personal circumstances. All right, let's begin.
Hello, my name is Debbie from NDIS Property Australia, and you're listening to the SDA Housing Podcast, a show that explains, highlights, guides, and brings awareness about all things SDA in this ever-changing NDIS world. This is our monthly SDA Unlocked episode where we delve into the supply and demand data for specialist disability accommodation in different areas around Australia. We have recently been working with some people looking to build an SDA somewhere around the northern New South Wales area. So I'm sure that most of you have heard of Byron Bay. We have been in dealings with providers in the past in this area who tell us that the demand is great in this area, anywhere from the Gold Coast all the way down south of Byron. There's a lot of old housing, very unsuitable, not SDA standards that SDA funded participants are currently living in, and more housing is needed. Now, of course, if you know anything about this part of Australia, it is quite expensive. So that obviously contributes, is the main reason why not too much development has happened up until now, just because of the cost. But I thought it's worthwhile just having a look at the actual data, because this will give you an idea of just how big the undersupply in this area is. So what I've done is I've actually pulled together the statistics from the NDIS most recent quarterly data, which was issued in mid-November from the September quarter data. And I've taken the data from both the Tweed Valley SA3 as well as the Richmond Valley Coastal SA3. So the Tweed Valley SA3 runs from basically the Tweed Heads area, right on the border of New South Wales, Queensland, down to Pottsville and out as far west as Tyalgum. The other SA3 region is the Richmond Valley Coastal. That is a roughly 100-kilometre stretch of coastal area that runs from Golden Beach down through Byron, Ballina, down to just past Evans Head, and with an average of about a 15-kilometre radius going inland from the coast, wider in some areas, narrow in some areas. So a lot of it, or most of it actually, is rural. Again, another challenge for developing SDA, but there are a number of participants there. Now, overall, the SA4 has 3 different SA3 regions: Richmond Valley Coastal, which I've mentioned, Tweed Valley, as well as Richmond Valley Hinterland. So I'm not going into the Richmond Valley Hinterland area, but it's worth noting that those other 2 SA3s take up about probably 60 to 70% of all NDIS participants, all SDA funded participants, and all housing in the area. So what I'm going to be talking about is, you can say it's about, let's say, 70% of the larger SA4. Now, what I've done is I've actually collated the details of both SA3s to give you just a little bit of an idea of what we're looking at. We have 175 SDA participants. So looking at the combined numbers for both of those SA3s, we have a total of 175 participants with SDA funding. 102 of them, or 58%, are living in SDAs, and 73% have funding in their plan but are not currently utilising it. So that's 42% of the SDA participants in the area can't find suitable housing, or for whatever other reason are not currently living in SDA. Now, what is the status with the current number of properties? If we look at both SA3s, we have 48 dwellings, and within those dwellings, about 126 places. 43% of those places are in smaller homes, 1 to 3 resident dwellings. 57% are in group homes or legacy homes. And if you've listened to us before, you will know that legacy homes will be defunded. There's actually one legacy home in the area, so that will have 6 or more participant places. But there are 50 places in 5 resident group homes, and there are 16 places in 4 resident group homes. We know the group homes, the recommendation is for them to be phased out. A lot of them are probably falling into the existing category. There are 24 out of those 48, so exactly half of the properties in the area are existing. What that means is they are older than 2016. They're not a new build. They, in many or most cases, don't meet the current SDA design guidelines. So not fit for purpose, not desirable, not properties that are suitable for these participants to be living in, which echoes what the providers on the ground there have told us. So in the overall SA4, if we look at maybe 65, not 70, it's probably a bit of an over-exaggeration, but 65% of everything in the SA4 belongs in both of those SA3s. You can just estimate, this divided it by 2/3. We have a total new build and pipeline number of dwellings, 207. This is excluding all of those existing properties in the SA4, because I'm talking about SA4 now because, of course, we don't have some of this data at the SA3 level. We don't have the new build data broken down, nor do we have any of the pipeline data. So if we work on 65% of these numbers, it might give us a bit of an idea of exactly what's going on in terms of pipeline and new build. But 207 places, excluding all of the old stuff, for the number of participants in the SA4, 265 places. And the projections for that number, that demand, is to grow by 9% by 2027 and 17% by 2038. And that is only 7 years away now. So if we look at, in the future, 309 participants fighting for 207 places, what's that telling us? Big undersupply. And so essentially we're looking at a 71% undersupply of appropriate new build housing in the 1 to 3 tenant category, undersupply in this whole area. So if it is an area that you are thinking of growing, it probably, with this kind of an undersupply and such a desperate need for appropriate housing in the area, is probably not as of great importance as to whether you're building it in Tweed, in Byron, in any of the other towns such as Ballina. It is important that it's built, because we have heard of participants from that area, from the Byron and above area or Tweed area, who are currently living in Logan, as an example, in southern Brisbane, because there is nothing else suitable for them. So it's going to be and continue to be a high demand area moving forward for quite some time, I would say. If it's an area you are considering, maybe you have a property there that is ripe for a knockdown rebuild, this would be an ideal location to do an SDA build. Speak to us about the feasibility of that. Speak to us about what you should be considering building in that area in terms of designs, property type, dwelling type, whether it would be a house or villas or something else. But I think this is probably an area that you wouldn't go wrong if the numbers stack up. Obviously, I'm talking about the potential income versus what the cost of developing something in this area would be. An increasing challenge for all areas of Australia, especially those areas that have got an undersupply of quality SDA housing, but just something for everyone to consider who may have, a place, a property up in that northern New South Wales area. So just to repeat again, I'm talking about anywhere from pretty much Evans Head all the way up to Tweed Heads. And yeah, huge undersupply. So do get in contact with us if you have any property there and you want to look at what you can do with it. Anyway, thanks for listening. And I will be back soon with another SDA Unlocked episode on another very interesting part of Australia. So thanks for listening. Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please make sure you are subscribed and following us so you can keep in the loop with all of our upcoming episodes. We would really appreciate it if you could leave us a 5-star rating, a written review, and to share this podcast with those that could benefit. Until next time, catch you on the next episode.